November 8th, 2022. I've been dreading this day for years. Why? I mean, I know the midterm elections look awful this year, but it's not that bad. It's not like you live in Florida. No, it's not about that. There's something worse happening today. Something far more sinister. What? A children's book. So, it happened. Yes, I know. 1 week after my video essay came out. Listen, I had to have a deadline to finish it by, okay? Keeper Book 9 has released. Don't watch this video if you don't want spoilers for it, because this is going to be a very in-depth review. I went into reading Stellarlune as blind as possible. The book was leaked a few days early with the French release, and I did catch the spoiler that Elysian was the name of the character, but I didn't let myself see anything else after that. Partly to be objective in my review, and partly just to let myself be surprised. And I sure was surprised. I was also more thorough in taking notes and marking down the sections of the story this time. Let's start with the negatives. The pacing in the first half is awful, especially the search for Elysian section that comes right after the cash opening section, which drags on for so long. There are a lot of meta comments in the writing about how tropey Sophie's issues are, or just someone specifically Bro and Stina, commenting about a problem with the narrative that I've pointed out before. And surprise, this does not make those problems disappear. If Sophie realizes that she acts exactly like every rom-com character in existence, this does not make her stop acting like one. In fact, that only worsens the problem because it tells us that the author is aware of this problem and won't fix it. Also, Ro isn't that annoying just being herself, but I don't think she's ever not present until she leaves for Ragnarok. I did not feel any emotions during her goodbye chapter. Here's a pro tip in writing. If you want the reader to be emotionally attached to a character, you must make the character enjoyable to read. Some of the characters in this are really good, but I've seen comments about how Stellarlune did a few dirty, namely Fitz, Lynn, and Stina. Personally, the character that I think got the worst treatment in this book was Stina. I didn't see problems with anyone else while I was reading the book. Lynn's just changed as a character. She just didn't get enough screen time. This was definitely noticeable when Lynn and Tam suddenly made up off-screen, and the excuse is the tension with the trolls was scary. Incredible. And I've also seen people thinking that Fitz was out of character, but personally, I think that those fans just weren't willing to accept his actions in the recent books as in character. Not like I do. But speaking of, now that it's been a few days and the dust has settled a bit, the general consensus among fans is that Stellarlune, especially the romance-focused sections of it, reads like a fanfiction. See, what did I tell you? This is, of course, fan service, a word that I somehow didn't mention in the entirety of my hour-long Keeper video essay. Much of the Stellarlune plot and Keep's romance is driven by it. Book 9 makes it very apparent that a lot of quote-unquote new things have been planned since the very start, so I don't know how much of Keith's involvement in the plot is for pleasing readers and how much isn't. I have a source that watched the recent live stream of Shannon's in the past few weeks recent, and apparently Shannon still isn't 100% that so Keith will be endgame. But either way, Stellarlune has made Keeper's fanservice problem apparent to a lot of readers. And the problem with Stellarlune that bugs me the most. There is one fight scene. One. Yes, I know, Nightfall only had one as well, but in that book's case, it was a character-centric installment, and its climax was long and really, really good to make up for it, like one of the best scenes in the series. Is Stellarlune character-driven? Sure. Is Stellarlune's climax good? No, not really. The action climax isn't bad, but it's also short and not much happens in it, except for, well, you know. Also, this doesn't really count as an issue in the book, but I was genuinely hoping for a queer character, and I know we got close with Tyrtis, but I was hoping for the entire book that Elysian was non-binary, and I didn't notice that she had gender pronouns until people on Discord had repeatedly pointed out to me, and now I'm very sad, and I don't have a bingo. Since we're on the topic, there's about a 50-50 chance that the final installment will canonize a queer character. I will not applaud if it happens. I'll say it again. For a series with a lot of semi-subversive allegory for systemic discrimination, Keeper is very strangely avoidant of acknowledging the LGBTQ community. It's been pointed out to me that a good chunk of the fandom is kids raised by Christian parents who likely have control over what books their children read. Whoever is deciding on queer erasure knows this, and knows that having a queer character will impact profit for the rest of the series' run. If there's a queer character, it's going to be as late and as small as possible to minimize damage. Christian parents won't like this anyway, and neither will the fans advocating for representation. The only winners in the scenario of a queer character are the people profiting from Keeper's success. Now on to the things I liked about Stellarlune. Even with Keith gone at the beginning, I was fairly certain going into Stellarlune that he would return pretty quickly, or the plot would at least be completely centered around him. I was pleasantly surprised to find that this wasn't the case. Of course, as soon as he returns, he can't catch a break, but it was nice while it lasted. When the return to Foxfire was foreshadowed near the start of the book, I noticed it and I had mixed feelings about that narrative direction being taken. But I actually enjoyed the time I spent there. I know, it's weird coming from myself, but I dislike the time at Foxfire in Book 1 because it swallows up the story and it's obviously trying to imitate Harry Potter. But returning to Foxfire in Book 9 was a nice nostalgic break from all the chaos that's been going on. And Jency, he's done so well considering we haven't seen him that much since the first book. I really hope he gets to fight in the final battle. And if he doesn't, we blame it on the deadlines. When I read Jency say, "Thanks for not treating me like I'm defected," that was the light bulb in my head that made me go, oh crap. Special abilities were a metaphor for disability and ableism this whole time. So do what you want with that, because I sure will. And then the final item. I really loved Fitz in this book. Maybe it's because I had zero expectations for him. I didn't think he would get any development at all, just because I had assumed that he was done with after his quote-unquote redemption in Unlocked, and being generally characterized as someone beyond redeeming. So I was beyond overjoyed when the Cognate Inquisition thing started, and he was actually allowed to develop. Reading this almost conclusion to his character arc was immensely satisfying, and I'm pretty sure I was happy stimming the whole time. Oh yeah, also, so keep his canon. As a romance-repulsed heroes person, my reaction when I realized it would happen in this book was, okay. It would have been silly if Keeper did a miraculous ladybug and kept dancing around a stupid romance for longer than it needed to. I wish I could say I liked the kissing scene, but I skipped over half of it, and the half I read, unsurprisingly, is mild and fan-servicey enough to be a decent Wattpad fic. So, how good is Stellarlune? Well, it's better than Legacy, that's for sure. This one is weird for me because of how polarizing it is. It's mostly paced well, except for a few parts where it's unbearable. It's got good character development, if you think so. I want this book to be good, a solid 8 out of 10, so badly, but it just isn't. You have no idea how much I wish for something I could review and say surpassed every expectation I had for it. It's not bad by any means, but Stellarlune sadly isn't it. A final word, because I haven't been asked about this, but it'll probably cause a lot of confusion anyway. I am not going to only make Keeper videos. I'll probably make a video of something big happens and/or when Book 10 releases, but that's it. Yes, I know, my name is Guster Animations, and my first video was about Keeper. I know, I misled you, sorry. I named this channel after a Scratch account that I made when I was 12. That username originated from an account I had on the Keeper wiki, where my username was dead-named the Guster. I went by my dead name on that site, but on Scratch as Guster Animations, it was a different story. I had my dead name in my bio there, but someone didn't bother to check it and just called me Guster because that was my username. I didn't like it, but I also didn't try very hard to correct them, so the name stuck. My screen name is Guster because I ventured outside of the Keeper fandom. It's part of my identity almost as much as my IRL chosen name. Even though I unknowingly appear like that, I am not just my 6th grade hyperfixation. I'm sorry if you wanted this to be a Keeper-focused channel, but I have so many other interests that I'd love to talk about on videos, and they're rotating constantly. The least I can do for myself is not restrict my content when I have so many other things to talk about. I hope you'll stick around.